Our multimodal project by Rebecca Lava and Ana Castro is based off of the book Refugee by Alan Gratz. Alan Gratz is a New York Times best-selling author that has written 19 books. Refugee is the story of three struggling kids fleeing their countries for a better life in different timelines with their families. Isabel from Havana, Cuba, Mahmoud from Aleppo, Syria, and Joseph from Berlin, Germany. Isabel's story is based from the Malaconazo riot in Havana, Cuba in 1994. Mahmoud's story is based on the barrel bombs in Aleppo, Syria in 2015. Joseph's story is based on the events of the Holocaust during 1938. The book starts with Joseph's family home being broken into by Nazis in Berlin. It was on the night of broken glass, or Kristallnacht. Joseph's family, along with many other Jewish families, were terrified as Nazi policemen came to their homes and took Jewish people prisoner to Holocaust camps. In the novel, Joseph is so scared he wets himself, and the Nazi policemen proceed to make fun of him. Then they point out that he may be old enough to even be sent to a concentration camp himself. His sister Ruthie is scared and is covering her face. His mom begs to not take Joseph with them. After a lot of verbal abuse and physical abuse to their home, Joseph's dad is taken by the Nazi to be sent to Dachau concentration camp. Just outside Havana, Cuba, is Isabel, an 11-year-old girl that lives under Fidel Castro's rule. Isabel has a passion for playing trumpet, and she played out in the streets of Cuba. While she is playing her trumpet, a riot starts and she finds her grandpa, then proceeds to try and find her father. She sees her father being brutally abused by a Cuban policeman and jumps in between them to stop the policeman. The policeman didn't care and proceeded to go for another blow, but another policeman grabbed his arm and stopped him. It was her best friend's older brother. He was a policeman as well. After Isabel and her family fled the streets of Havana to go back home, they knew Isabel's father had to leave Cuba that very same night, or he would be found and sent away. Mahmoud, a 12-year-old Muslim boy in Aleppo, Syria, that tried his hardest to be invisible under the regime of Bashar al-Assad. He has a missile explode in his home. He and his family flee immediately and decide to go to Germany for refuge, leaving with only backpacks on them. They start traveling by foot using GPS. Joseph and his family flee in the St. Louis ship that would take them to Cuba. They are reunited with his father before getting on the ship, but his father went through so much trauma that he did not look or act the same. He even scared his own sister Ruthie, and they just did not recognize him. Despite this, when they are on board, Joseph felt safe on the ship because there were so many Jewish people on board that he even had his bar mitzvah. Joseph was upset his own father didn't go because of how paranoid he was, and his father's trauma ends up causing the policemen on board to ransack their room and receive hate speech after his father tried to stand up to the policemen. Isabel sacrifices her trumpet in order to get gas. As Isabel and her family and friends leave Cuba in a small rickety boat they all built, they face challenges. The Cuban police try to stop her father from leaving by shooting at them. Luckily, they were able to get away. Thrown off by a tanker a couple days in, the boat heads and lands in the Bahamas, where Isabel's grandpa wanted her mom to stop and give birth, but her mother refused and said they would continue their journey to Florida. Along the trip, water started sinking their boat and sloshed inside it after they had tried to get away from the tanker, making the boat heavier, so they decide to take turns being outside of the water. When out in the water, Isabel's best friend, Ivan, is bit in his leg by sharks, and when his father tried to stop the bleeding with a belt, it was too late. Ivan was dead. As they arrive to Miami, they are slowly being approached by the U.S. Coast Guard, and Isabel's mom begins to give birth. Her grandpa gets flashbacks to turning down the St. Louis, which Joseph was in, and feels remorseful and realizes he didn't want to make the same mistake twice. He sacrifices himself by throwing himself into the water to be saved, knowing he would be sent back to Cuba, in order for everybody else to keep rowing to Miami. Isabel's mother gave birth in Miami soil and little Mariano was born, Isabel's little brother. Isabel ends up living in Miami along with her family as she learns how to count clave in class as she plays her trumpet, her song playing in honor of Lito and Ivan. Mahmoud and his family arrive at Turkey. They hired a smuggler to lead them to Greece, but they kept getting set back by the smuggler that just repeated to them, tomorrow, tomorrow, tomorrow. Finally, the smuggler texts them saying that they were about to leave. When Mahmoud's family arrives to the water, they see a raft, not a boat. Mahmoud's father couldn't believe his eyes. Not even the smugglers boarded the raft. That went to show how unsafe it was, but they were willing to take the risk anyway. As they were on sea, the raft hit rocks and everyone went different ways, swallowed by the sea and drowning. Mahmoud's family were all fighting to kick to stay afloat as the life jackets they had bought turned out to be fakes. Hannah, Mahmoud's baby sister, had to be handed off to a random woman on a life raft in order for there to be a chance she lived. Mahmoud's family was rescued by the Greek Coast Guard, then planned to take a train to the border of Macedonia and try to sneak across during the night. They tried taking a taxi to the Hungarian border, but were robbed at gunpoint and left stranded in the middle of the darkness. Halfway to the Hungarian border, Hungarian soldiers threw tear gas canisters at the refugees and threw them in prison. The refugees escaped the detention center and walked all the way to the Austria border. They went on traveling to Munich by train and were finally offered asylum. Mahmoud was hosted by Joseph's sister, Ruthie, and promised to help find Hannah.
In the end, Joseph's struggle results in a heartbreaking choice to protect his family by surrendering himself to save Ruthie after being on the run from the Nazi. The sacrifice he makes highlights the devastating impact of the Holocaust. His story serves as a reminder of the personal cost of war and persecution, emphasizing themes of loss, bravery, and the yearning for safety. How does the book Refugee connect to the ideas of social differences and inequality? Race and religion. Refugee connects to the ideas of social differences and inequality. In the book, Joseph, a Jewish boy fleeing Nazi Germany. His story shows how people are discriminated against because of their race and religion. The Nazis target Jews, which leads to fear, persecution, and displacement. Nationality. Mahmoud, a Syrian boy escaping war in 2015. As his family seeks safety, they experience rejection and hostility simply because of their nationality. This reflects how refugees are often treated with suspicion or fear just because they come from a different country. Socioeconomic status. Isabel is a Cuban girl fleeing poverty in Cuba. Her family's economic hardship forces them to risk everything for a better life. This highlights how inequality based on wealth affects people and their decisions. All three stories show how refugees often face unfair treatment because of fear or misunderstanding of people from different backgrounds. Refugee also highlights the importance of empathy and understanding. The book encourages us to build connections by seeing refugees as individuals, not just based on their differences. It tells the stories of refugees from different times and places, showing the need for greater kindness and acceptance. Refugee helps us understand the struggles refugees face due to race, nationality, and economic status, while encouraging empathy and social change to build a more inclusive society.